Pops asked. "Why the need to suddenly become aggressive with friends?" "There are no such things as friends," the young gang member said. "Only suppliers. And I have made contact with the Africans who say they can supply us at half the cost." "Oh," the Camorra leader replied. "I did not know you had been in contact with the Nigerian prince who wants to help him regain the opium fields his uncle has willed to him." From the youngster's silence, Payne had the feeling the comment had struck fairly close to the truth. "We need to be able to continue to provide quality merchandise," the older man continued. "Otherwise, profits will dry up. We must always follow the path to the highest profits." "The path to the highest profits," he chuckled. He'll have to remember that one. "The only problem with that philosophy," he said, and chuckled at both the idea and the fact that they wouldn't hear him, "is that it might not be good enough to keep you alive." Although, if he were a betting man, he would put his money on Pop's outliving Punk. Out of ingrained training, Payne switched to his second scope that was trained on the entrance to the same building. Flé Noir, one of the most popular clubs in the city, was located on the first floor, and business dealings that were beyond the concerns of any of the club's patrons were held a few floors above. "What's this now?" he muttered. When he was in the company of others, he always kept his thoughts to himself. But while on a stakeout when he had no one else to talk to, he tended to speak his thoughts. If he ever had an auditory response from another Payne in the room, he would have sought professional help. That not being the case in this instance, he put therapy off for another time and focused on the door at the entry to the club. Even though it was still early evening, it already had a line waiting to gain entrance. His gaze settled on a woman who approached the entrance. Her cop's eyes were set in a face that some might call severe, but he preferred severe over soft and thought she was gorgeous. He hadn't kept up with the latest trend in hairstyles, but the short-shorn Annie Lennox look must be making a comeback. On her, with her almost black hair, it looked good. The long coat would conceal several weapons. He wouldn't have bet against it as he watched her weave through to the front of the line. She was taller than most of the women and half of the men. He put her at 5'11". "You're obviously here on business," he muttered. "Please be smart, and don't let it interfere with mine." His ruminations on the Scotch opening forgotten, he watched as she arrived at the rope and saw the bouncer nod. Although his hand didn't open the rope until he'd made a call. He kept his eye on the door, but his mic remained focused on the upstairs office. The voice is not always clear. The bouncer's call must have been answered, because one of the youngsters announced, "The bitch is here." Okay. He made a note of the players so far. "I've got Pops, the Punk, the bouncer, and the bitch." "Bring her up," Pops instructed. That decision was met by a jumble of voices, none of them sounding happy, mixed with a few catcalls and whistles. The order was followed through, and another bouncer appeared. The rope was lowered, the new man escorted the bitch inside, and Payne returned his whole focus to the camera focused on the office. Darkened windows did nothing to prevent his P59 lens from having a clear view, although it did cast everything and everyone inside in a soft yellow glow. Again, the voices within were hard to make out. He would need to upgrade his mic soon. His current one was fine when only one voice spoke at a time, but not so fine when several spoke at once. His lens, however, worked to perfection, although he didn't like what he saw. There seemed to be unified movement and positioning, and he was certain that each player was armed. The bitch wasn't his responsibility.